Hey guys, this is Chase. I'm that guy with the gloves. I have been trying to shoot an intro to this podcast and nothing's really flowing right. So I just decided to scrap all of that and say, how are you? Hope everyone's doing good. And I think we're just going to jump right into the podcast with Captain McKay Random. And I will hopefully see you guys soon in a video or podcast or whatever it is I have time to do. So, yeah, from the last time that we did this, I basically stopped doing the podcast. And I love that you mentioned that on Ian's. You're like, Captain McKay, the podcast killer.
That's me.
But
I'm here.
Yeah, since the last time we did this, what the hell has happened? There's been a global pandemic. We have a new president, and we have the Snyder Cut of the Justice League.
Of all the things that we didn't expect, the Snyder Cut is somehow the most shocking out of like a global pandemic happening. I would have bet more money on that than the Snyder Cut. But now we got both.
We had a Capitol insurrection.
Sure, yeah. Yep.
The sky turned red. It looked like frickin' Blade Runner, which I was a little bit jealous of California. It's like, that's just my dream, is to live in that dystopia.
Really?
Texas froze.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, that's right. A terrible ice storm. Lots of chaos going on down there. That's when I was actually in Mississippi, where, again, there was an ice storm and no one was equipped to deal with it. So, like, the car I rented had no ice scraper in it. The hotel I was at had no ice scrapers or no way of, like, dealing with any kind of weather of that sort. I think they said 1994 was, like, the last big ice storm. And the fact that they could pinpoint it that far back means that, like, it was significant in their minds. Like, so... Yeah, been, close to 30 years since something like that has happened there for them. And sure enough, the week I'm down there is when it happens again. I'm like, oh, come on.
See, you're just like the harbinger of death.
I bring chaos wherever I go.
So yeah, how's Mountain Man? How's the sort of new place?
Doing good, yeah. I mean, been coming up on 2 years at the place, but no issues, which is nice. Like, still, I mean, it's still a mess. It looks like I got stuff all over the floor as I look around, and it's just... I've done nothing to actually like fix the room up since the last video I put up where I complained about what a mess it is. So this is entirely my own fault. So
my room is the exact same. It is complete freaking chaos. I've been here for over a year and a half now, and I've not done anything smart with it. Like, you could probably see in the background, there's my closet to my right, and it's just full. It's got shelves in there full of figures. I've got 2 more shelves here full of figures. And over here to the left, it's just pure chaos. There's a table with a bunch of crap everywhere. There's a bunch of those plastic container drawers full of shit. And, yeah.
Like those bins.
It doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got some of those over here, too. Like, I actually have, like, right now, the computer's, like, propped up on one of them because I took it down off of this thing here that just serves as my, like, computer streaming table if I ever, like, do a video or anything in here. So I'm like, it's fine. I can just... pick it up and put it down. Like, the problem is finding space on the floor to actually put the thing. Like,
yeah, but that shelf behind you, so good.
This one's still holding up. Yeah, like the Street Fighter.
Yeah,
some X-Men and Turtles. So we're good. Yeah,
just for people at home. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen many episodes of Between the Frames, and if you haven't seen the last episode, get on that. You get to see Mountain Man be tortured by a banana-flavored Kong bar.
Oh, God.
That was amazing.
To know. We had to know.
I know. If I see those things, I'm going to buy them just for the novelty fact alone.
Yeah, don't eat it, because it's not that good.
I know. I'm not going to.
I recommend it.
I saw that man's pain. I can't do it.
Unless you're a huge fan of, like, that artificial banana. Like, you could just leave that right on the shelf.
Yeah, I don't mind banana. My fiance absolutely hates banana, so we don't get to have bananas in the house.
That's fine. Yeah, you're better off without the chocolate, the Kong chocolate.
Oh, no, yeah, no kidding. So on the top shelf of Cap's immaculate display here, we've got the movie Ninja Turtle figures, and I see Toka and Raz are squaring off with Michelangelo and Leonardo, and I see Shredder and the Foot Soldiers. Below that, we've got his 90s Jim Lee orgasmic level X-Men team right there. Just chef's kiss.
I had to make sure that I still, like, because I have a big X-Men display over there with, like, all the 90s stuff, but at this point Hasbro and in some cases Toy Biz, like, have, like, doubled up on so many of the characters. So, like, I'm like, well, I got Cyclops in the jacket, I got the different Rogue and Gambit, the Toy Biz Beast. I'm like, I'll just put another shelf. It's all the same characters, like 4 feet away from each other on 2 separate shelves, but you know what? It's X-Men. I have to. Like
Yeah.
I think
So
Colossus
next-
is Marvel Select, and the other one is Marvel Legends.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I was gonna say he did look like the select version because he looks almost 2 inches taller than Cyclops.
oh yeah, he's huge. Like that doesn't bother
Yeah,
me with like the larger characters because depending on the artwork, like the artist is drawing them all different sizes and everything. So I'm like, fine, throw him in there. He's good. And plus the figure's just really nice.
Yeah, I know the select version. They have pretty much the same articulation as the Marvel Legends now because God, those earlier ones they were almost just statuesque.
Yeah,
couldn't do a damn thing with them.
that's like Thanos, the one I have. Like you could barely. He was bulky anyway, but you barely got any movement out of him.
So yeah, you got the cartoon turtles with Splinter next to the X-Men, and then below that is my shelf. It's the Storm Collectible Street Fighter shelf.
Yeah,
Whew, doggy.
power.
God, we need a Street Fighter 2 Bison like ASAP.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they haven't announced it or like done anything with it because they went back and did some of the classic looks from like Street Fighter 5, like the arcade looks or whatever it is, and like the Ultra Street Fighter 2, like Ken and Ryu and stuff, Guile. Like Bison should be pretty high priority, I would think.
I would hope so. I would like to get one of those just so I could stop hearing complaints from him.
Yeah, he bothering you about it.
Yeah, I mean we haven't spoken in a while, but I get text messages.
Right? Yeah, you got it.
How's the Storm Collectibles Motaro?
I like it. It's really nice. Like the body, like the actual like horse body, you don't get any like movement on. I guess like there's no ab joint or anything like that. But the legs are pretty well articulated. The human upper body or centaur upper body, whatever it is, it moves like any other Storm figure, so you get a good range out of that. And
Nice.
yeah, I like it a lot. And plus his little articulated bloody skeleton he comes with is just a lot of fun.
I know it's basically just that golden axe skeleton, right, with blood all over it.
I think so. I don't have the Golden Axe ones, but from what I gather, it's basically just that with different paint. And there's I think the Bloody Motaro comes with like the green slimy one, which like if I had that kind of money to just throw away, I would buy it just to get that gold skeleton or the green skeleton because he just looks cool. Like I want to make like a Deadpool stage and just have him hanging in the background like he just got dipped in the acid there. I'm like, that's I'm not spending $110 on it though, so we're not doing it.
Yeah, if anything, if Storm's smart, they would probably release like a skeleton 4-pack. You get 2 bloody and then 2 covered in the acid.
They've released different colors skeletons, but just not like blood deco and not like, slime deco, I guess. They just like standard like purple and red skeletons, which are again, they're pretty cool.
I know, it'd be so easy to make a Spinal custom from Killer Instinct. You just add a red bandana, just take Ryu's bandana off of one of his figures and slap it on him.
Yep.
Slap it on the skeleton. There you go.
Look, done. The work's done. Storm, that's an idea for you. Just give us some money for... Storm really, like, I'm going to go off on a little tangent, but they just have to get on Final Fight. That's, like, the only thing they don't have a license for. That's like, they have licenses for, like, every one of these other games. And Final Fight would give them so much crossover for their Street Fighter line, too, because, like, they all share characters. Like, it would print money. And you'd basically be robbing me of every dime I have, because I would go all in and not regret a single cent I spent on it.
I know, like, Poison, Hagar, Cody, Guy. The list just goes on and on. You could make...
Sodom, Hugo, Relento, like, all the guys that showed up in, like, the Alpha games. Like,
Yeah, Hugo. I almost called him Andre the Giant, but I was like, what's his actual name from the game? It's Hugo.
Yeah.
It shows you I didn't play enough Street Fighter Third Strike or whatever game.
Whichever one, yeah. I know he's back in, I think Street Fighter 5. He's reappears, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't played Street Fighter 5 in forever, but I think I only ever played it when it had like a very limited roster too, so by now, who knows what they got.
Yeah, they've added some other Final Fight characters, but it's just like, no Hagar, no dice.
Yeah, he was in the new Marvel vs. Capcom, which was, I guess, not great. Like Infinite, I guess, was just not that good.
Yeah, well, he was just a reused model from Marvel vs. Capcom 3, so...
Yeah, I still like 3, so I mean,
I'm
in no rush to
great.
get a less good version of it. I'm like, I don't need it.
Like, the fucking Vita version of that game was amazing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, so speaking of the Vita, I gotta now transition over to Ian from the 616 Entertainment YouTube channel and podcast. How fucking proud are we of that man?
He's doing awesome stuff, and like this, from what I gather from one of his videos, he was talking about like because of like kind of the pandemic and everything, he's had more time to make more videos, and it really shows because he's built his channel like so much. Even in the last year, like what was it, a couple of years ago, I guess, like his video just blew up, the Mortal Kombat one, and like people caught on to what he was doing, and he hasn't like slowed down at all since then. Like he's got 2 or 3 new things like every week, it seems like, plus the podcast that he does every week, plus whatever else he's doing on like Patreon from time to time, which I'm actually well behind on Patreon because like I just forget to check it a lot of times. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, I could go there, and like he'll probably have a podcast up, or he'll probably have some kind of thing, some posted that I could watch, or like, yeah, I just forget that Patreon exists a lot of times.
No, I know, because I would subscribe to his Patreon for a little while. Same with OSW Review, and it's not the most user friendly, I would say. It takes a minute to like get used to everything and stuff like that. It's like it just needs to be streamlined a little bit, and I was trying to think of what the right word for it was. Whether it's like how they host YouTube videos or how they host podcasts on there, it's a little cumbersome. So I can understand why people don't want to go on there, because it's like, oh, I wanted to watch something from OSW Review, one of their Nagar U exclusives. I'd have to go on there, sign in, find the link to Vimeo, and then enter in a code to watch it. And it was just like, God damn, I love you guys and I want to support you, but this is just too much.
The thing with like, it's the user interface is actually better on the phone, like the phone app, but nobody's gonna be watching videos on the phone if they don't have to. Like it's not. If I'm like at work in my car or something on the lunch break, I can do it, but like I'm not gonna do it at home. I'd rather just fire it up on the TV or like on the laptop or something.
What do you think's been like your favorite series of videos from Ian? Whether it's the history of Mortal Kombat, his history of SmackDown, Resident Evil. He's got his Superman for Everyone series, or Let's Play Friday, or the new the Nitro and SmackDown series that he's been doing. I've really liked the SmackDown series that he was doing with Matt Hardy. I love
taking him through the video game. Yeah,
I love Here Comes the Pain so much, and I felt his pain when he got fucked so hard at the end of the Royal Rumble by Stone Cold Steve Austin. I've had so many playthroughs in that game where it's like, okay, here's what I'm doing from beginning to end, and then at the end you lose something and it fucks your entire year. It sucks.
Yeah, like, I can definitely relate to stuff like that, like in those campaign modes, like season modes and the wrestling stuff, where like you have to get certain matches won in order to like get the outcome you want, and then you just like lose or something. I can think back as far as like No Mercy with that stupid hardcore match with the APA that I just can't win. Like it's terrible. But yeah, as far as like what he's doing, like some of my favorite stuff I think has been like the Mortal Kombat like Monday series that he does, where it's not really like chronological like gameplay, I guess it could be, but like for the most part he's doing different things every week, and it's like almost an anthological type thing, where the last one, I think the first one of this season, was like the history of Sub-Zero.
Oh, that was so good.
It was like a character history. It wasn't like chronological, here's where the character started and here's how he went through. He was going like game by game, which means if something was revealed in a later game, he didn't talk about it until the later game, which preserved the surprise that, like Noob Saibot, for example. He didn't just say, like, oh, yeah, so this Sub-Zero dies, but he comes back as Noob Saibot later. Because you don't find that out for years into the franchise. So he's not going to just throw it right in the beginning of the video. He's going to make you wait for it.
Right. That was something I really liked about it, was him just going game by game and not like a complete history breakdown. Like, oh, here, we're going to take you into the ancient secrets of the Lin Kuei. And it's like, no, this is how we experienced Sub-Zero's story.
Yeah.
That's pretty smart.
I hope there's more of those coming, because I did like that one.
Yeah, like you could do that on like the history of Superman movies, where it's like, okay, here's the first Superman movie. Here's this, and this, and then, okay, continuity break. And it's like, okay, here's the history of the Batman movies, Yeah. Go from the first one with Keaton to the last one with Clooney. And just be like, dudes, this made no fucking sense.
Yeah. It's like those, I mean, almost could be treated as like two completely separate universes, like the Keaton ones and the Schumacher ones. Like they're just like, I'm pretty sure they're meant to be related, but there's really no ties to any of them. I mean, except for the actors who played like Alfred and like Gordon. Aside from that, like there's no similarities between those movies at all. So it's like you could almost just put it in its own bracket altogether.
And Nicole Kidman makes mention of Catwoman and stuff like that in Batman Forever.
Yeah,
so there's
right.
there's a little bit of a reference here and there. Oh man, I've been watching so many like breakdowns of those movies and just people kind of going back and talking about them. I'm trying to remember. There's a guy called High Top Films or High Top Films.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember exactly how his channel's pronounced, but he does some really good breakdowns of these movies. And you and I, we love Batman 1989. It's got its problems, but we still love it. Whereas like he'll do an entire video breaking down why it's a bad Batman movie. He's not saying it's a bad movie. He's just saying it's a bad Batman movie for these reasons. And you know, you would get that like standard nerd reaction of the thing that you love, where it's like, fuck you, man. I hope you fucking die. You shit on the thing that I love and point out its flaws. It's like, no, he's actually got compelling arguments. And like his latest one, he was like, Batman Forever is like an understood masterpiece. I'm like, okay, let's jump into this.
Is that that was like a long video too, right? Like 40 minutes or something?
Yeah, it was almost an hour long. And I was like, you know, I'm not gonna lie, he kind of won me over with that because like the first time I saw Batman Forever, I liked it just as any other kid, and then as you got older, you realize, oh, this isn't the same as the Michael Keaton and the Tim Burton one, so now you hate it, and then you get older and you get past this shit, and you're just like, okay, I like it for what it is.
Yeah, it's something I'm probably due to give it another shot. Like, as it stands right now, it's like my least favorite out of that series, which is controversial to say when Batman and Robin is in the same series, and I get that, but like...
But Batman and Robin is so bad it's good.
Yeah, well, Batman and Robin is like consistent. Like, it's just the 60s show, except with more of a budget. Like, it's at least tonally consistent. You're not jumping from silly Jim Carrey comedy to like stylized action movie to like brooding Val Kilmer in a cave thinking about like his traumatic, you know, past or whatever. Like, you can't do all of that and have it all make sense, like context, like, I don't know, it just doesn't flow. But Batman Forever or Batman and Robin is just big, stupid, like, comedy, and it flows. It's fine.
Yeah.
You have Arnold Schwarzenegger cracking wise about ice.
Favorite ice pun from Batman and Robin?
The Ice Age one, I think. What killed the dinosaur? And he just freezes the skeleton. Oh, incredible.
I like that, and I like the one, too, where he pops up in front of the giant telescope gun, and he's like, tonight's forecast, a freeze is coming. It's just so goofy because it's like zoomed in on his mouth, and you know,
it's like who's he saying this to? He's just entertaining himself at that point. Like, it's not really an ice pun, but he's just like, always go a size smaller, make me look slimmer. When he's got his like Arnold like freeze costume on, like, would there be a bigger size of that costume? Like,
I know, right?
Oh, well.
I know. I remember the first time I saw that was like, damn, is Arnold actually like kind of a small guy? Because, you know, you watch his previous movies, Arnold looks like a fucking giant compared to everyone else, but then he's just standing right next to Uma Thurman, who of course is wearing like, you know, 9-inch fucking Poison Ivy heels. But they're like the same damn size. I'm like, damn, either she's a tall lady or he's actually kind of a normal sized guy.
Yeah, he's just like always takes the larger than life roles. Like, I don't know. But then, Bane in that movie, it's just the worst.
Oh my god, dude. I don't know if we ever talked about this, but I freaked out watching that episode of OSW Review of the 96 Uncensored, where it was Macho Man and Hogan versus the entire Dungeon of Doom and the Four Horsemen, and like the... it's like the Steel Cage of Doom or something like that. I can't remember what it's called, but the guy that was Ultimate Solution played Bane. Yeah, so I noticed when you stood up to get a new pair of headphones that Nation of Domination Mark Henry is just on your desk by himself.
Well, D'Lo's here. He's just not out of the bag, but I got him up there. I was gonna find a place for him on the shelf, and I just never did yet.
I just love that idea of him like just being on a shelf by himself. Like, nah, this is
Mark
mine.
Henry looks over everything in the room, make sure everything's good. Yeah.
So I'm trying to remember what we were talking about. Was I freaked out in that episode of OSW Review where they revealed that Ultimate Solution was Bane in Batman and Robin. I'm like, holy shit.
Royd Belly.
Oh my god. The Royd Belly.
Yeah, I never actually I knew that guy was a wrestler, but I never. I don't think I ever actually saw him in a ring do anything until that OSW review made me realize exactly who he was.
I know, God. What the fuck were they thinking? God, you look back at 96, Ultimate Solution is essentially just a big, roidy, muscular guy. Here's your idea for this guy that's going to kill Hulkamania. We're going to get this big, bald guy with a handlebar mustache. He's going to have camouflage face paint on the top half of his head. He's going to have an outline, a black outline around his mustache. He's going to have no shirt or no nothing. He's going to have camouflage pants, and he's going to be eating lettuce. This is the guy that's going to kill Hulk Hogan.
Many have tried, and I could see why he failed of all people.
Oh my god, dude! What? Going back and watching some of that stuff, and let me set the scene for you people. Hulk Hogan had so much booking power in WCW. He literally could have done anything he wanted. What he decided to do was to build a stable of cartoon characters that he could easily defeat every single episode. There was a pay-per-view where Hogan has a cage match against the Giant, who's supposed to be the son of Andre the Giant, and Hogan easily defeats him in the most boring match of all time. And then the entire Dungeon of Doom, which consists of about 8 to 9 people, run into the ring, and Hulk Hogan's got a chair, and he just bonks people on the head, and it sends them running away. It's really? This is what you do with infinite amount of creativity and possibilities and an unlimited checkbook.
He then decides to put himself in a match against all of them, him and Macho Man. He's it's going to be us versus pretty much everyone else in the company, but we're definitely going to still win though, because people don't pay to see the Hulkster lose, brother.
Oh god. Shit, no wonder people hated him in the 90s.
Yeah, it's very much still to this day, anybody that worked with him is just fuck this guy. Still mad. I cannot imagine having a match where, put yourself in the Macho Man shoes. They're going to have a 60-man battle royal in 3 different rings, and the winner gets the World Heavyweight title, and that person's going to be you. And you're going to be the guy that carry WCW for maybe the next year or so. What happens mid-fucking match? The guy that's supposed to be your best friend, the guy that brought you in, he's going to change the results of the match where instead of Hogan going over the top rope due to some shenanigans from the Giant, he gets pulled under the ring, so he's never eliminated. And Macho Man ends up winning off fucking camera. And then Hogan the whole makes
time,
the whole thing about how he didn't really get eliminated.
Yeah, Macho's supposed to be celebrating this amazing victory, the first time he's ever won the WCW World Heavyweight Championship, and it's all about Hulk Hogan.
And at that time, WCW's world title still had lots of prestige. It hadn't quite gotten to the levels of Russo flipping it 12 times in a year or whatever it was that same, or later on. Or it was longer, more than that. I think it was 20 something.
Yeah.
Between the title being vacated, back and forth, Sid and Nash and Flair and whatever that 2000 was, because that's an OSW thing they did too, where they just talk about how frequently the title flipped in that few months.
Throughout this entire pandemic, YouTube has been my saving grace. I have watched and discovered so many channels where it's okay, how did I not know about this person before? But I've been fantasy booking crossover episodes with Ian from 616, Allison Pregler from Movie Nights, OSW Review, and High Top Films. Who would you want to see a crossover for YouTube wise?
Wow. Yeah, that'd be, I don't know. That's actually really good to think about. Because, I don't know. I think Ian from 616, if you could get him on a podcast with the Angry Video Game Nerd, that's gold right there. And I know that would be, a pretty significant thing for him, too, because he just admires the guy's work. So he'd just be yeah, that'd be awesome. Let's do it. They could just go back and forth about, childhood games and current stuff and, just video production, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, that would be amazing. If, yeah, like, let's fantasy book that. I would love to see an episode of The Angry Video Game Nerd where, like, he goes into, like, a video game store, and it's kind of like a mock-up of Ian's old job. Because he used to work at a used video game store, and, like, James has, like, a couple of sets where they're movie stores or video game stores or something like that, where the Angry Video Game Nerd has to find, like, a rare, obscure thing, and him and Ian get to have, like, a banter back and forth. And then he gets to be on an episode of, like, movie reviews, or I don't even know if James still does that stuff. And, you know, get him on Ian's podcast.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Like the podcast especially, because it could be just a lot more like free form. Like it wouldn't have to be like within the context of like, here's the situation in this video and this is why we've come together. Like that's something I think Red Letter Media does pretty well too, with like their half in the bag and this stuff. Because like there's like a 2 or 3 minute setup where it's like ridiculous like scenarios that these characters are in, just to put them, you know, together. But then they just drop it like within the first 2 minutes, and it's like, yeah, now we're two guys talking about these movies because that's, yeah, we just do the other stuff to make it a little more fun.
Yeah, and I love the opening skits in the half in the bags. Where my favorite one was from the Rogue One review, where it's like it looks like they're setting up something, and then Rich walks in. He's like, "Hi, I'm Rich Minersky. I'm the city inspector." And like, "Oh fuck it, let's just talk about Rogue One." And they're like, "X-wings, Darth Vader, red lightsaber." They just go out on like a weird nerd tangent of all the Star Wars stuff. It's like, I love it where, oh, here, let's just do our dumb little skits that everyone expects. And it's like, now let's just throw that all out the fucking window and let's just do this.
Yeah, this is why people have come to watch this. I think it was the Rogue One video where they did like a little re-edit of the trailer.
Yeah.
Where it was like, it cuts to a shot of Grand Moff Tarkin, but it's from like the Clone Wars because they're trying to talk about how like terrible the CG, and it's like just from the cartoon character. Tarkin shows up and you hear Rich Evans laugh in the background because he's like, he gets it, you know, like, all right, that's good.
Yeah, no,
that Rogue One, that's another thing. Yeah, like I mean, another tangent, but that Rogue One, like, everybody swears that it's like awesome. I'm like, I don't see it. Like, it's not bad, but I don't know that it's like the second coming of classic Star Wars that everybody seems to want to make it out to be.
Yeah, I gotta eat some crow on that. I thought it was amazing when I saw it in the theater, and then afterwards when I watched it a couple times on like Blu-ray and at home or on some streaming thing, it's like, God, the first like 2/3 of this is really fucking rough. Like the last half of it where they're sneaking into the base and the X-Wings show up and the rest of the fleet show up and then Darth Vader shows up. It's like, that's all great. I fucking love that stuff. But God, yeah, that first 2/3 of the movie was just awful.
There's cool like scenes in it, definitely. Like I like that Darth Vader looks the way he did in the original Star Wars, which they're like just differences in the costume that came later that everybody kind of thinks of when they have their mind's eye image of Darth Vader. Like he just looks a little bit like,
less
I don't know
put
if cheaper
together.
is the word.
Yeah, less put together,
like,
I'd say.
Yeah, because they just, the budget wasn't there in the original movie, I guess. But, like, there's, like, I think my ultimate issue with it is, like, even before you ever see this movie, you already know there's no stakes because you've already seen the original Star Wars and you already know that they get the Death Star plans.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if you're building up an entire movie that's going to basically lead into the first scene of a movie you've already seen, like, why am I watching it? Mm-hmm. So you better deliver something interesting while I'm watching basically nothing happen. And I don't know that they did. Yeah. That's just, I don't know. For me, that's kind of what killed it.
Yeah, it seemed like there was a much more interesting movie in the Gareth Edwards cut of it. And then it kind of got changed up to be lighter. Because it seemed like from that original trailer that it was going to be way more of a grim story where it's like, we know we're sending you guys to your deaths, but you have to do it.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of scenes from that first couple of trailers that just are not in the movie.
I remember, what's her name, running out onto some platform in a TIE fighter, like swooping up to like face her like pretty much dead on. Yeah. That just doesn't happen. Like certain things just don't. Mm-hmm. Like, they just never follow up on any of it.
Yep, unfortunately tragic. Going back to Red Letter Media, because we were talking about the Rich Evans laugh. I'm always watching it on my couch in like the middle of the fucking night, and I'm trying to listen to it to where I can hear it, but it doesn't matter how low I have the volume. When Rich Evans starts laughing, it fills the fucking room, or it fills the house. You could hear it from the bedroom, from the laundry room. It's like his laugh is so high pitched and hilarious. There's
very distinct.
Yeah, there's one that he has because they have like a fake podcast where they make fun of Jedi Council and those like Star Wars and Marvel podcasts called the Nerd Crew. There's one where they're opening up like a fake loot crate or loot box. It's called like Loot Crate or Geek Crate, where it's literally just like a wooden crate filled with random shit that they threw in there. And nice. One of the things that Rich Evans pulls out, it's a Ghostbusters action figure of Melissa McCarthy's character, and they just scribbled out all the Ghostbusters stuff and they slapped a bunch of Star Wars stickers on it, and it just says Rey in Sharpie. And he instantly breaks when he sees it. He like picks up, he's like, "Oh, we have a Star Wars action figure that's clearly not a discounted or a surplus Ghostbusters figure that they couldn't sell." And he's continually laughing, and he just says, "Mike, this is the best thing I've ever seen." And it's so fucking funny. Oh god, yeah, like this whole podcast is just going to be us gushing about other people's podcasts and videos and just going on.
Yeah.
I literally have nothing to fucking talk about. Like I've had like
we're like, if anyone listening would rather listen to something better, here are our recommendations.
Like I've been so out of the loop with like making videos and action figures and streaming and stuff like that. It's like I've got nothing to promote. I don't care about any of this stuff right now. Like I just bought a fucking car and I'm worried about paying those bills, and now I have to drop $600-700 on new tires tomorrow. Like I'm freaking out right now. It's like I've got nothing to look forward to.
It's like that's very much life. Like, you know, I've had my action-packed weekend of Snyder and Winter Soldier. Falcon and Winter Soldier was Friday, which pretty good. I liked WandaVision a lot, so I'm curious to see where this one, like what direction this show goes.
Oh god, WandaVision was so good.
Oh man, awesome. Yeah, really. I mean, I like Wanda as a character. Yeah. She's really fascinating, and like I was waiting for something like this to kind of show more of what she does, because in the movies she's just kind of like, she just shoots little red balls and like kind of is weird, and that's like her whole thing. You don't really get much of a definition or an explanation for her.
Yeah, the focus was just never on her.
Yeah, this is the first time where we're actually seeing, like, actually, yeah, she's had kind of a rough go of it. Mm-hmm. Like, and you know, it makes her a lot more like understand. You get why she's doing all this, and it makes you kind of think about all the other movies where it's like, well, if we were paying attention to her, like, all this terrible stuff was pretty much happening to her that just never goes noticed by any of the other characters. Like, okay, I get it. So, yeah, good payoff for Wanda. Falcon and Winter Soldier seems interesting so far. It's been like one episode, so I don't really have much to go on.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I was trying to find time to watch it this weekend, just haven't had it. But, yeah, from everything I saw of it, it looks great. That's what I'm loving about Marvel right now, is that they're doing so much different stuff where it's like, okay, you're going to have your action spy show with Winter Soldier and the Falcon, or Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then you're going to have your weird Twin Peaks / supernatural shit with WandaVision, and that was so good. Mm-hmm. Like,
that was the one that I was most interested in too, out of all the shows that they showed.
Yeah.
Pretty much Falcon and Winter Soldier was the one I was least interested in, just because it looked like a little more of the same, and I was curious to see what Marvel was going to do like different, which Loki looks like it's going to be all over the place, so I'm curious about that. And WandaVision was definitely like its own totally weird thing where, you know, like as you're watching it week to week, you're like, I'm not sure what's going on here, but I think I like it, so I'm going to keep watching. And yeah, like, it was out of the shows, that was the one that, you know, most interested me.
Yeah, it was weird because like people were, I didn't watch it until like episode 4 or episode 3 or 4, so it's like I got to catch up on a lot of that stuff. So like the reaction to it online was, people were just like, I don't know what to make of it. Why can't I watch all of it? It's like, dude, you're supposed to watch it and then ponder. You're not supposed to know everything.
Just burn through the whole series in one go. Like,
exactly.
That's, yeah. I liked, what's it? Damn, I lost it. Been playing Doom, though. It's just, we got our new Doom Eternal DLC, which is a whole thing. Like,
I'm waiting on that Game of the Year edition, but yeah, from what I've seen you post of Doom, and it looks so fucking good.
I love it. It's incredible because it's just like not taking itself as seriously, which I do miss a little of the serious tone of the last game from 2016. But at the same time, like this game is just so fun, like that I can overlook that stylistic choice in terms of just to be able to enjoy more of this game. But yeah, like it's way over the top, and I like it. Like I want more stuff for the Doom Shrine out in the living room now. Like
I know, like the one trailer that I remember watching for it was that there was like a BFG size. There was a cannon sized BFG on like the moon or something.
Yeah,
I was just like,
BFG
okay,
10,000.
I don't even need like this whole game could suck. You just sold me on this one thing.
Yeah.
And now there's mechs and like giant, like kaiju sized demons and shit. And I'm like, okay,
the big like
okay.
Titans. Yep. Oh man, yeah, so good. Speaking of like kaiju, I think next week is Godzilla vs Kong coming. I'm excited about that. Like,
Oh god,
been a nice little couple weeks. It seems like there was such a dry spell for like Marvel and like anything like that because after Endgame there was another Spider-Man movie, but pretty much since then like we didn't get Black Widow because of the pandemic. There's like all this other stuff that got pushed or shelved or whatever the case, and like now everything seems like it's hitting like hard. Like every other week there's like something new, like Snyder, the Disney Plus shows. I got into Mandalorian too, which like finally I watched both seasons I think a couple months ago. Good stuff. That did everything I think that Rogue One was supposed to do for people. Like that actually lived up to its it piqued my interest a lot, I think.
Yeah, I had pretty low expectations for that going into it, but just wow, really exceeded it. Especially by the end of episode 2 when you know who shows up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My god. Should we just go into full spoilers about Mandalorian?
I think we probably can because it's been out a couple months now.
Yeah. So, like, from the beginning of the show, when you saw the person that he's going to look after is a baby Yoda, what the hell was your reaction to that?
Yeah, like, I mean, I didn't see it as it was airing, so, like, I already knew about, like, the whole, baby Yoda craze from just, like, other people talking about it.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting, the setup, where I'm like, oh, okay. So they're talking about this is, like, 50 years old, and you're expecting some guy who's, like, 50 years old, and what you get instead is 50 years of still an infant, because I guess Yoda just ages that slowly, or Yoda's species, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, it's interesting. So now this guy's like becoming essentially like an unwilling protector because he kind of changes his mind about the bounty and all that. And from there, it gets interesting. And I'm like, oh, okay.
I know, it's so good. Yeah. Like the way they bring back the battle. I can't remember what the droid's name is called, but the droid that
IG-11.
Yeah, the one that Taika Waititi. Oh god, I need to remember these people's names before I start a podcast. But you know him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
From What We Do in the Shadows and Thor Ragnarok and God, what's that Hitler movie he just did? Jojo Rabbit.
Oh god. Yeah.
Like I love the way they brought him back and they made him like the nanny. And it's like, oh, he's now super docile. But then at the last episode, he's flying through on the speeder with Baby Yoda in his like little nappy sack sling, and he's just like spinning around shooting the guns and stuff. I was like, oh my god, that's so good.
Yep. That's I don't know, good payoff for the assassin droids, because like you never saw him do anything in the movie. Mm-hmm. Like you just see him stand there in one scene, like in the Empire Strikes Back, and that's all you get. It's like, oh, okay, I can see why these things are like feared across the galaxy now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like then like all the little like side plots of the different characters, like kind of what they're up to post like Empire. Mm-hmm. There's still like the little remnants of the Empire that exists, and they're basically like thugs for hire. And then there's the little outpost that they get to in season 2 when he finally has to take his helmet off to be able to like blend in. And these guys are still just running like an Imperial base off somewhere, like off grid completely. Like, all right, this is pretty cool. Like seeing that all this is still out there. It's just basically like not in power the way it was.
Yeah.
I like it.
And like they still act like they're in power. Like they're like, oh, okay, yeah, you defeated us, but oh, we got this happening. Oh yeah, you're in trouble now. And it's just like some dumb smelting factory where like they're trying to pretend like they're still the Empire. It's amazing. But like
fall from grace, yeah.
But it's like, who the hell knew Bill Burr was such a good actor?
Yeah, like he was, what was it? Like he was that prisoner for a while, and then he gets like freed because they need him for this mission, and then at the end of the mission they kind of let him go. They just cut him loose because he's been a valuable help to them. But yeah, I never expected him to be like good. I don't know, like
I know, it's like his one line about him saying that Mando's a Gungan under his helmet, and it's like, you said no when I show your face. It's like, okay, you just completely justified Jar Jar's existence for me because I got this one joke out of it.
everybody's in on the joke that Jar Jar just sucks now. Like,
Yeah.
I like that there was all these like fan theories that Jar Jar was secretly like a Sith Lord the whole time, like engineering like the downfall of the Republic, like moving Palpatine to power.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
You know, if Lucas could have pulled that off somehow, it was been like, you know what, fine. Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, it's all great now. You did it.
Yeah, you know what? I'll give him both of those movies now if that was what really happened. Because like, yeah, it is Attack of the Clones where like Amidala's off somewhere with Anakin and she puts Jar Jar in charge. Which, I mean, what did she think was going to happen? Honestly, like, but yeah, like Palpatine like is like, oh, if only somebody would give me the power. Jar Jar, and you see Jar Jar over there thinking about it. Like, he's just manipulating this stupid Gungan to do all this stuff. Oh, God.
It's pretty good. No, I love the first episode of the second season of Mandalorian because, one, we get Timothy Oliphant in Boba Fett's
armor.
fucking armor. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Real
my
good.
God. I had no idea he was in it because, like, when these episodes drop, I do whatever I can to stay off of Twitter, Instagram, anything. If I see something that even looks like it, I'm like, nope. Just get right past it. Shut the app down. So, like, him walking in there super tall and lanky, I'm like, okay, that's not Boba Fett. And then he takes the helmet off. I was like, ah!
It's better than Boba Fett.
Yeah. So good.
Him being in that was great. Like, it just made me sad that Santa Clarita Diet is gone. Like, because I really liked him in that show.
God damn,
that
yeah.
show was really good. And I'm like, come on. Like, Netflix, you left me on a cliffhanger. Treat me terribly.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like they said that they'll greenlight one show for like 3 seasons and then they'll weigh the costs versus reception to it and whatnot and the amount of views that it gets. And it's like, as far as I knew, Santa Clarita was like a hugely popular show for them.
I thought so.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw like lots of marketing and advertising and stuff for it, and the show is worthy of it. It's good, but like they just, I don't know. I guess they just didn't feel that it performed well enough for them to like continue, which makes no sense to me. But all right.
Yeah, well, it's like the same thing happened to Glow. Glow was supposed to get another season or some type of a movie to wrap it up, but I think that was more due to the pandemic.
I didn't watch Glow, but I do remember that it had. I think it was the second season, right? They did get a second season, and that was it.
I think they got a third season.
Oh, was it a third?
Yeah, because the second season was, I think, them trying to keep the show alive. Like, the first one was them building up the show. The second season was them trying to keep the show alive, and Debbie and Allison Brie's character, I can't think of her name off the top of my head, them trying to work through their shit, and then the third season was about the Vegas show.
Oh, okay.
Like, I haven't seen the Clone Wars show. Is Moff Gideon a part of that? Or is he a part of Rebels?
That's a good question. That's another one of those shows that I just never really watched much of. Like, I've seen some of the earlier Clone Wars episodes.
Yeah.
The CG one. Like, there was the other just totally cartoon one from some years ago that I watched, like, back then.
The Bruce Timm one?
But it was not Bruce Timm. It was this other guy. The Dexter's Lab guy. Jendi Tartakovsky, I think. But, yeah, it was done in that, like, Dexter's Lab art style. And it was actually pretty good, I think. But, yeah, this is, like, totally different from that. And I watched some of it. It wasn't bad. But, again, it was kind of, like, nothing to speak, too many high volumes of, like, awesome for me. I liked, some of the things, actually, that they did in that show was kind of, like, canon breaking in a way.
Yeah.
So, like, there's the scene in Revenge of the Sith where, like, Anakin and Obi-Wan fight Count Dooku. And Anakin's like, my powers have doubled since we last met. And, like, basically in your brain, the last time they met, Anakin got his arm chopped off on whatever whatever planet that was with the clones and the droids and everything. But if the Clone Wars is canon, the last time they met could have been like 4 days ago. You know, like
Oh yeah.
like come on, like you can't have these guys interacting that regularly and have this seem like there's stakes because you've removed the stakes at this point. Like I don't know, little Star Wars canon things that bug me.
That's such a weird line of dialogue. My powers have doubled since we last met. Like, is he a fucking DBZ fighter or something? Hey, guess what, Dooku? When you fought me, I was at a power level of 1,000. Now it's 2,000. He's like, well, I'm a 5,000. It's like,
Yep.
oh, God.
That's George Lucas dialogue for you, though. I guess that's when you give him full control. This is what you get.
Yeah. Well, it's like the reason why I was asking about Moff Gideon is because like I knew nothing about like the dark saber, so like it showed up at the end of season 1 when he cuts himself out of the TIE fighter, and then the Mandalorian's the one that Katie Sackhoff, I think her name is, the actress from the Clone Wars, because she comes back as her character.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like her character wants the dark blade because I guess if you have that, that means you're kind of the ruler of Mandalore.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
because there's like the different versions of Mandalorian culture. There's like the real strict, like almost religious Mandalorians, like the main character with his helmet that he never takes off and this and that. But then there's like kind of the more like I guess the less strict Mandalorians, like her and Sasha Banks and the other one, where they're like just hanging out with their helmets off. They don't think it's a big deal, but yet she still wants the thing for this like prestigious reason, the Darksaber. Like, okay, so they just believe different things, but they both basically identify with the Mandalorian culture in some way. Like, that's pretty cool.
Like, how freaking insane was it that Sasha Banks got the job for Mandalorian because of her appearance on Hot Ones and not anything that she did with WWE? Like, WWE tries to be this global thing, this global entertainment product, and, like, literally no one gets a job from it.
Yeah, like, I think WWE, like, it's, I mean, pretty obvious to see. I think it's not as far-reaching as it wishes it were.
Yeah.
Which is why, like, you know, I'm sure people might have heard of, like, Sasha Banks, maybe, but they don't know her from watching wrestling every week. They know her because she was on the Hot Ones or because of, you know, something on Twitter, maybe, or whatever the case. But, like, yeah, like, nobody's watching wrestling being like, I'm going to cast that person in my TV show, because wrestling just isn't looked at through the same lens, I don't think.
Well, definitely not anymore. Like, I remember from, you know, the mid to late 90s and into the early 2000s, you would see people from wrestling show up everywhere. Like The Rock and Ken Shamrock and the Hardys were on that 70s show, and then that led to big things for The Rock.
Yeah.
Like Stone Cold would show up on Nash Bridges and like fucking like even on like the USA Network, like they would get like Triple H to show up in Pacific Blue or something. It's like if you have someone on the same network, get them on the shows. Like when you're talking about it being not as far reaching as they wish, like look at AEW. AEW, their advertisement and everything is showing up on basketball games and sports shows. Fucking Shaq is coming in to do stuff. Snoop Dogg's coming in to do stuff. It's like they're getting major, like mainstream cross promotions that I just don't see with WWE anymore.
I think TNT Network just really believes in what AEW is doing because they know like that's been sorely missing from like a Turner Network for a long time is wrestling, and like it used to be one of their main things. And so now when they got it back, they're like, we're going to just put it everywhere because it's totally different. It's a new, innovative, fresh thing to watch. And yeah, it's wrestling, but it's going to be different than the other wrestling you see on TV. So here's, you know, check it out. And we got names behind it too. Like you got, like you said, like Shaq is on, and like they're bringing in, you know, I think Christian just came over, Big Show just came over. Like all these guys that you knew from the past 20 years are now here. It's more interesting. You know, Jericho was one of the first guys they got, and everybody knows who he is if you're a wrestling fan. So like that him alone would be reason for somebody like me who doesn't really even watch any wrestling anymore to be like, oh, check it out. I know him. I like him. So sure.
Jericho's got some mainstream appeal. Like, have you seen Cobra Kai?
No, I've heard good things. I just haven't watched it.
Yeah, you would love it. I would definitely recommend it. There's a scene in there where someone takes a back elbow, I think, and one of the characters mentions, he's like, yeah, he popped him like Chris Jericho.
Nice.
And it's just like, yeah, you know, these guys, their names are going to start getting out there now. So it's like if you see somebody in a movie like do a high knee to someone's face, they're going to be like, oh man, fucking V-Trigger, and you're going to instantly know what that is. Whereas,
Yeah.
like, if you see someone fly through there and hit somebody with their forearm, I bet you anything, no one in that same movie is going to go, that was a phenomenal forearm, you know?
If they did, it would just go overlooked by everybody. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like, yeah, like V trigger is very distinct. Like, you know what a V trigger is, but a phenomenal forearm could just be anything, just down to the name of, whatever it is you're describing, I guess. But like, yeah, like, I don't know, the appeal of wrestling has like slowed down. Like you were talking about all those shows, like TNT or not TNT, USA Network had all the different cameos. There was always like Sable or Shawn Michaels or somebody popping up on, these Baywatch or Poltergeist, as the Undertaker was on that, and like all this other stuff. Like, I'm glad you brought up Triple H on Pacific Blue though, because like he didn't play a role. He was just Triple H on Pacific Blue. He was like weird, like porn star bodyguard guy.
Right.
Who
He moonlights as a bodyguard.
That's his other job, yeah, when he's not wrestling. Because the girl.
Well, yeah,
talking to
they're
him-
only getting paid $25 for an episode of Raw.
Yeah, so he's got to do something, I guess. But yeah, like the girl gets out of the car and talks to him, but she calls him Triple H, does like the suck it thing.
God.
You got DX music playing in the background. I'm like, so he's not just a guy. He is Triple H. We're meant to think this is the same wrestling guy on TV. The day after he did his wrestling match, he's like, all right, well, I'm going to be the doorman today, I guess. But I'll still wear my DX shirt and have my DX music, do the suck it.
I know, it's like it's like you remember back in the day, wrestling was the hottest thing to where literally every fucking show had a wrestling episode. That 70s show had one. Like fucking Walker Texas Ranger had multiple episodes. I think there was like an episode of Charmed or Supernatural that had an episode where like Rob Van Dam was on it.
Oh,
Like
nice.
Star Trek Voyager, they had The Rock on there.
That's right, yeah. He was like, God, what?
He was like some
He fought with
7 of 9.
right? Yeah. I remember something about that.
And like that brought me back because I saw a Reddit thread about Celebrity Deathmatch, and they're like, "What happened to the revival of this?" And obviously, sense of like people's sensibilities, and they don't want to make fun of people anymore, which is something Celebrity Deathmatch did a lot of.
Yeah.
They took the piss out of everybody.
A lot of the lampooning stuff you couldn't really, you'd have to find like a different way of doing it, I think.
Like, however South Park gets away with it, Celebrity Deathmatch would just have to either embrace it and not give a shit, but it couldn't be on MTV because MTV is like super woke now.
Yeah.
And here we're gonna make our backs. We're gonna make our entire network off the backs of being the smuttiest, most un-PC thing, and then the second we turn a profit, we flip that switch.
We're good. We still, was that, they had Jersey Shore, right? That was
Oh
on
yeah.
TV?
Yeah, Jersey
Okay,
Shore,
so, yeah.
The Real World, all that reality TV shit. Where it's like, we're going to show you the worst of humanity, and then we're also going to tell you to be better people. Like, what the fuck?
Like, lead by example. You're
I
like,
guess
here's
so.
all this shit you're watching. Don't be like these people. They're the worst and they're terrible. But we're making them all very rich, and you're going to hear about them now for the rest of your life because we've given them this platform.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like, thanks a lot.
Guys, leave it alone.
But, like, the other thing, too, it's like, I don't think Celebrity Deathmatch could work as much as it used to because it was also wrestling. And wrestling's just not what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
That's true.
Like,
Who would you...
my
like
dad...
Cena would...
sorry, go ahead.
I'm just thinking, like, who would you even get, like, because Stone Cold was, like, a regular, like, crossover character that would show up on there, but, like, who now has that name value? Like, John Cena, maybe. That's basically it. He's the wrestler that people know now, because The Rock is a Hollywood guy now. Like, we're gone are the days of, like, Hulk Hogan being the most popular wrestler because he's not a wrestler anymore. Like, you basically have John Cena. That's who people know now as the wrestling guy.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say probably the best person if they even did a Celebrity Deathmatch again, Chris Jericho.
Yeah, honestly. The guy probably with the most mainstream pull at this point.
Yeah, well, it's like I think of him and I think of his voice and everything, and it's like he would get his music in there, because he basically would just license Fozzy to them, more exposure for his band. And it's like, and he would, like, AEW wouldn't have, like, their fingers in every aspect of the show, whereas, like, if you got somebody from WWE, that's exactly what they would do. They would mandate a bunch of shit.
Kevin Dunn over your shoulder watching everything you're doing. Getting those crash zooms in when the guys get hit.
Yeah. oh, you're going to have Roman Reigns on here? Okay, you have to call him the big dog every 30 seconds. You have to
Yeah.
remind people what he's doing is a Superman punch. You have to also pimp Fastlane. And
Yeah, and he can't lose.
Yeah.
And he can't be getting hurt
you
at
can't,
all.
like, you can't have Jake Paul get this much offense on Roman Reigns. And that would be the worst aspect of Celebrity Deathmatch, was they would have to bring in YouTubers and influencers. And as much as I love certain YouTubers and influencers, like, I'd love to see Angry Video Game Nerd beat the shit out of the Paul brothers, you know?
Yeah, that's a yeah.
Like,
The
okay,
whole-
yeah, sure, you'd sell me on an entire episode of that, but, you know.
Like the whole landscape is different where it used to be, I guess, like the like TV personalities and the shock jocks and the radio hosts and everything, like satellite radio. Like your Howard Stern doesn't matter anymore, but you got like Logan Paul or whoever the fuck, like these guys that everybody knows who they are, but nobody knows why they're famous. Like,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And that's who you make little clay figures of and have them fight.
Yeah, you'd have to put up like a splash screen of everything that they've done. But like, oh, this guy's a YouTuber. Oh, what does he do? What does he do? He talks about video games. Okay, what's this next guy do? He's a YouTuber. What does he do? He talks about video games. Okay, and
Sold.
but he jokes about it this way, and it's just like, okay, I don't know.
Yeah, fame is interesting. Like, I don't know. I went down a rabbit hole of like YouTube, like the whole after like the Channel Awesome thing some time ago. Like I went down that rabbit hole of like just watching the destruction of like his name at that point.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what has happened to some of these other people that used to be kind of famous? And so I'd watch like these kind of critiques of like when these people peaked and how they basically fell from grace, and like it's interesting to think about. Like all these people that used to be so prominent, especially like on YouTube, you couldn't, open YouTube without seeing some video from these people. And the next thing you know, it's like, actually, turns out they're awful, and here's why. I'm like, oh, I don't know why I'm so fascinated with this, but I'm going to watch this for an hour.
It's another one of those things where it's like you just find out this person that you kind of looked up to in a way, or that you're like, God, that's so awesome. I bet I could do what they do, and I bet that they're a cool person, because you sit down and you watch like a 30-minute video or a 2-hour live stream of them playing your favorite game, and you relate to them, and it's like, oh shit, they're actually not the best person.
Yeah.
And it's like, do we even really know if that part of it's true? It's like maybe they're just having a bad year, and everything's just kind of crumbling all around them.
Like putting on an on-camera persona, which
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's something like, I guess going back to the Angry Video Game Nerd, it's like you can tell a stark contrast between his persona versus like him, just the guy.
Yeah.
But like him, the guy, is just like a mild-mannered version of the nerd. Like you can tell he's going to get frustrated by a game or anything, but he's not going to scream and make up a string of profanity after it. But like that seems like as far as it'll go for him. Like he's not just like cracking the whip on his producers and like holding people up for money and all this other shit. Like he's just he's just a guy that likes doing this stuff, and when the camera's on, he'll play this role, and that's pretty much as far as it'll go.
Yeah, no, I've watched so many of his like behind the scenes of him, how he puts together every Angry Video Game Nerd episode. And like he had a bunch of other shows before the pandemic hit, where like the rental reviews, where he brought in his friends that also have their own channels or their own things going on. And like that led me to watch so many other people. Like there's another channel called like Aaron Plays, she's Mike Matei's girlfriend, and then Mike Matei has his own streaming thing that I watch now, and then his friend Tony has his own thing called Hack the Movies. It's like I watch him now, and it's just like you see how James brings all these people together, and he's kind of like promoting them, whereas like, and I hate bringing this up because of how much I used to love the Nostalgia Critic and everyone that was involved in his channel, like that whole Channel Awesome thing, and that guy with the glasses, like. They really leached off of their creators. Like Alison Pregler goes into that in like huge detail about how she was not making a lot from the Channel Awesome stuff, because they were just basically taking her ad revenue and dividing it amongst people, but a lot of it was still going to the Nostalgia Critic stuff. And she was like, okay, well, I'm going to start a Patreon so my fans could support me on the side. And like that company is literally telling them, no, you can't do this. And it's like, well, I'm not making enough to survive here. And that reminded me so much of WWE coming after people's like Twitch and YouTube stuff and cameos.
Yes,
It's like,
that's right.
It's like, man, go fuck yourselves. You're $1 billion fucking company. You don't need their side gig.
You got Paige out there just being like, well, let them come. Fuck it. Like, who cares? Like, I'm making more, probably doing the streaming. So she's basically weighing the option. Like, if it comes down to like me being a part of that company or me doing this, like, I've got a better living doing this than I do with the wrestling like anymore.
Yeah.
Like, at that point, you gotta call them on it. You know, so many people, like, they just want to have, like you said before, like, they have to have that control over everything that even remotely represents their company. And it's like, you used to need that. Why do you suddenly think you need that? And why do you not see that it's like making all of your employees miserable or your independent contractors miserable? Like,
yeah, no, it's insane how much the Channel Awesome thing mirrors what WWE's doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like you're killing outreach and you're killing your reachability to a new audience when you're not allowing them to branch out and be like, oh, hey, we like this person. What is like your actual job, or what is it that you also do? Oh, I'm also a wrestler. I'm not just this guy that streams Final Fantasy, or I'm not just this guy that, does cameo with funny voices. It's like, I'm also a professional wrestler. Here's where you could watch me. And then it's like you get to see that character in wrestling.
That's why I liked was it Austin Creed, like Xavier Woods, like up, down, down. I watch way more of that than I watch of wrestling. So like I know him as that more so than, from the New Day and stuff like that. Like I'm aware of it just because I keep up with wrestling just through social media circles I'm in and like different things. Like you just can't escape wrestling in a lot of ways. But
yeah.
And the same with like the major figure podcasts. It's like I know those guys as the figure podcast guys who also happen to be wrestlers, whereas I think a lot more people would know them as the wrestlers who talk about figures on a separate podcast thing. Like, I just don't watch any wrestling these days, so, like, yes, I'm aware that they're wrestlers, and I know that that's kind of how they make their living, but this other stuff they're doing is, like, way more interesting to me. So, like, I'd rather watch Xavier Woods talk about, like, some video games with some people and listen to these guys on the figure podcast than maybe turn on their wrestling matches. I don't know.
Yeah, like how fucking crazy is it that you would rather listen to two guys fantasy book wrestling matches with their action figures than to actually see them wrestle? And that's a fault of WWE having these guys having like 10 to 12 hours of live programming every single week, and you can't get them on fucking TV doing something. Like, I remember when Zach first started to like talk about wrestling figures and stuff, and he started talking about how like Apollo Crews, like, sorry dude, your figures are peg warmers or something like that. It's like, do you know how easy that would have been to work that into a storyline where you have these two guys who in any other group they would be the fucking nerds, they would be the guys that would get made fun of because, oh, you guys like wrestling figures? Imagine you got these two guys in a locker room and they come up to Apollo Crews or Tyler Breeze or someone and they're like, hey dude, have you seen your latest action figure? And like they throw it in his face and be like, well, you fucking should, because they're all over the pegs. I can't get the latest Finn Balor or Roman Reigns to save my damn life, and like they're cutting heel promos on guys because they suck so bad their action figures don't sell.
Nobody's buying your fucking figures, man. Like,
it's like you're shelf warming, you're taking up my valuable space for figures.
They tried that in like '99. Like they brought the Al Snow angle in,
right?
Because like him and Bob Holly were in the 2-pack, and Bob Holly was saying like, "Oh, people can't buy my figure because it comes with you and the stupid head. It gets pulled off the shelf." It's like,
right, exactly. Like WWE wouldn't even work something like that into a storyline these days, as far as I know.
Yeah, I don't know how they would. I mean, well, they would do it poorly, the way they do a lot of things.
Like when they shit-canned Zelina Vega, which I think at that point she was like, you guys are telling me I can't start an OnlyFans, and if I do, I'm fired. And she was like, fuck you, I'm starting an OnlyFans, and then gets fired for it. I've had it
with this anyway, so like, fine.
Like, that's such a great character arc for somebody, where it's like, you got someone who's like, hey, I want to make my living as a wrestler. And then you got someone else who's like, ha ha ha, I'm going to start an OnlyFans and I'm going to have an army of simps pay me all this extra money. And I can afford better gear, and I could like pay off management to book me in better matches because I have a simp army behind me. And like, what do you have, That's great fucking programming. And you'd think they would want to use this shit.
You could print T-shirts, yeah. Zelina Vega like making fun of like incel fans that follow her and shit, like, and yet they would all be. It'd be very meta because they'd all be the ones wearing the shirts, like the weird people that like she's basically saying like are financing her at this point.
Yeah, like the people
in
that
a lot of ways they would be.
Yeah, like the people
they
that
would also buy the shirt.
Yeah, like the people that bought the Cena Sucks T-shirts. Who do you think the money goes to? It goes to John Cena.
In Cena's pocket. Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh God.
But yeah, no, that's a cool arc, and like every week you could have her just bragging about it, and she's like, "You said you're gonna fire me. Here I am.
Yeah,
go ahead. Keep like make good on your word, and like be like, yeah, well, we're not gonna fire you until we've like, embarrassed you enough. So here's your match with fucking whoever the fuck tonight.
Nia Jax.
Somehow she wins. And like she just keeps like avoiding the embarrassment, and like, it's you get a couple months out of that easy.
Right. WWE could have their own fucking Twitch champion or their own YouTube champion or their Instagram champion. They could have so much good shit. I mean, obviously they would have to share some of that with these platforms, but again, that would only enhance their global reach. Like, I was on the phone with my dad last night. I haven't talked to my dad since Christmas, and we caught up about some stuff, but like 10 minutes into it, he asked me about wrestling because he's still watching. He watches everything every week. He's watching Raw. He's watching AEW and flipping back and forth between that and NXT. He's watching SmackDown, and he tells me the same thing that everyone else says. And he's not online on Twitter and stuff like that, but he says the same thing that everyone else says, where it's like, he's like, Raw's 3 fucking hours, and I'm miserable watching it. Like, and he always has like he has like 2 TVs up in his kitchen. So he's watching Raw and he's watching a baseball game or something like that. So, he has something else to distract him.
So he's not just, paying attention to it.
But, he asked me, is like, are you watching it? And what do you think of this? And he tells me about, he's like, they completely ruined Braun Strowman. And I have no idea what Braun's doing. The last thing I heard was that he came back right before the Rumble. And I'm like, okay, cool. I don't care. So I just asked him out of curiosity, well, what's going on? And he tells me Braun Strowman came out and complained that he's not getting a WrestleMania match. And Shane McMahon is back for some reason. And he came out and said, Braun, the reason why you're not booked for Mania is because you're stupid. I'm like,
got him.
I'm like, oh, wow. He's dumb. He's not intelligent. Or his character's bad, or he looks stupid. That's why he's not booked. And then, like, later in the night, him and Shane McMahon have a match, and Shane hits him in the head with a camera, and the camera, comically explodes with little sparklers or something like that. And then he somehow from there gets Braun onto a table and does his flying elbow drop, and then he covers him in, like, green paint or something and just calls him stupid. And I'm just like, is this how you're trying to get over a monster baby face? By having the son of the owner of the company beat him up?
I mean,
like, what the fuck?
I'm trying to think of a time that worked. I'm struggling to think of a time that worked. Like,
when was... Yeah, it was like... It's the same shit where it's like, oh, how do we get a baby face over? We humiliate them for weeks on end, and then they finally get their one comeuppance, and that's it.
I don't know. Like, yeah, it all seems so easy to just come up with better ideas, and like, I don't get it. Like, I'm sure these guys are coming up with decent ideas, and then they're just getting filtered out because you hear it's all kind of through the Vince McMahon approval system, and if he doesn't like it, it never happens. Which is why everything that happens is so tonally similar, because it's one guy that it all has to appeal to. Like, if he doesn't like it, that's it, and he likes very much the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's gotten more bland, I guess, ever since they stopped taking risks because they don't need to, because they got no competition, really. Like, even though AEW exists and Impact exists, like, they're not sweating these guys, really.
No.
Because they just don't look at them as competition. So, I don't know. Like, the whole franchise at this point has just become so, like, dormant, like, lackluster. Like...
Yeah, like watching OSW review, I see so many parallels between what I've watched from like 94, 95, 96 WWF versus what's happening for like the last couple of years, where it's like Vince, it's like every bad idea that Vince had is getting on television.
Just, nobody telling him like, maybe don't do that, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
Like
Triple H isn't like pulling enough strings, I guess. Or is he still like taking care of NXT for the most part?
Yeah, him and Shawn Michaels, they're the two guys that are running in NXT right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I've sadly fallen off the wagon with NXT too, just because it's on the same night as AEW, and I don't have cable, so it's like if the only time I ever watch AEW is when I'm out of town. Otherwise, I'm catching highlights of it on Twitter and Instagram like everybody else does. Same thing with NXT. And like I've seen a lot of what they're doing with NXT, with like guys like Dexter Lumis being this weird stalker to Johnny Gargano and his crew, and Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon are the new NXT Women's Tag Champions, which it sucks that the belts look exactly like the men's titles, but still, I'm glad they have it. And Karrion Kross is back, and Finn Balor's the NXT champion. It's like, okay, this is all cool stuff, but it sucks you're on the same night as the thing I'd rather watch.
Yeah, basically. Like my exposure to AEW is pretty much all through clips on like social media and YouTube and stuff like that. Like they have a good YouTube presence. Like they'll put entire segments of their show on there, and like it's easy to catch up, I guess, or like at least stay a little bit in tune with what's happening, which is how it's how I know guys like Sting is there and Christian and like Big Show and all that. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. I could see this being a big deal. I'm gonna get me a new like Christian figure somewhere down the road, I'm sure. Get Jeremy Padour on there. Like, go ahead. New Big Show. I'll take it.
I haven't really had a chance to talk about the AEW figures yet. Like, I haven't really made a video on it past my first Hall of Pain video in forever, which was last year now. What's your opinion on them? Like, how have they started and how have they improved?
I really liked Wave 1. And then, like, now that other waves have come out, I like Wave 1 less, just because, like, you can see that they just hadn't quite worked out the kinks in the system.
Yeah.
Like, so, like, the skin tone, as I look over at the shelf there, like, the skin tone on the newer stuff is definitely better. And, like, I don't know if it's, like, a matte finish that they put on them or, like, a gloss. I don't know. Like, I just know from, like, photographing them, like, they look much better on camera, too. So, like, the Young Bucks, the Series 1 Young Bucks, like, almost look like shiny on camera, just down to, like, the lighter skin tone and reflecting light. But the newer ones just don't have that, which is nice. Yeah, so, like, I got a couple on pre-order. I'm not diving headfirst into every wave and going for the whole set or anything. Like, I'd like to get a couple that I know of, but the rest I can just pass. But, yeah, overall, I like them. They're very compatible with, like, every other, like, Mattel Elites, and as far as I know, like, the Boss Fight Studio stuff and the Storm figures, and, like, all of them are similar in scale. So,
yeah, you
can build, like, a roster of any wrestler you want. Super 7, you know, the New Japan stuff, I guess, is going to be still in line with that scale, too, so good time. Be a fan.
Yeah, no,
I'm not a fan, I guess. Like, wish I were a bigger fan.
I know, it's kind of nice. It's like almost every wrestling promotion has their own line of figures coming. It's like Impact Wrestling, they have a deep roster of guys and women where it's like, God, I'd love to have a figure of them. They just need to get signed on to somebody.
I would be, yeah, like, I mean, I don't know why something like Jazzwares doesn't try and collaborate with them too, because AEW and Impact have kind of like a working agreement, it seems like.
Yeah.
It would be, you know, it'd be a good excuse to get some of these guys figures.
Yeah, they could call it the AEW Impact Series. You know, so it would let you know that, okay, no, these men and women don't necessarily wrestle for AEW, but they've been on the show, or they're also in this other show called Impact. So, you know, be a nice little cross-promotion thing for them.
Yeah, definitely.
And
I know, like...
No, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so I've noticed some amazing improvements from Series 1 to Series 2, because I bought most of Series 1, and I had the same complaints where it's like, the head seemed a little small, the arms and the chest seemed a little small compared to, like, the Mattel figures. They were just... The scale was kind of a little bit all over the place, and the joints especially, and, like, the shoulders and, like, the elbows, they were really, really stiff and kind of, like, ratchety almost, you know? Where it's like you're bending it, you hear that weird clicking noise. But yeah, just from Wave 2, greatly improved. Like, they fixed the skin tone, the joints seemed smoother, the scale seemed a little bit better, because, like, I currently don't have anybody from Wave 2 except for Hangman Page, but, like, I bought MJF, and I gave you my Dustin Rhodes figure as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was just like, man, these feel really good. And
That's it from Wave 2. That's all I got is those two, because I never saw it in person, but those are also the ones that I was most interested in. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. And like you said, big, kind of a strong leap from Series 1 in terms of quality.
Yeah, and from what I saw from your video on the Series 3 Young Bucks, they just looked amazing.
I like them a lot, yeah. And the fact that you could just literally pop them at the waist and just put them on the old gear if you want.
I know, that's so awesome.
You can just improve those figures greatly. And that's why I like this Omega and this Cody Rhodes and like all this stuff coming out. Mm-hmm. You can still use the old gear on the new figures, basically. It's just like interactive action figures at this point.
I know, it's tremendous.
I guess I never really thought about like the scale that you're talking about with like how they look a little smaller, because really the only time I've like used them, like I did some stuff with the Hardys and the Young Bucks on Instagram, and to me like the Young Bucks are a little smaller than the Hardys, so I might have just not noticed it.
Yeah.
Like I don't have like an elite Cody Rhodes to be able to compare to the AEW one. Mm-hmm. But like with Jericho, his AEW figure is actually larger than his like elite figures, because they were using that slimmer body type on the elites and different stuff like that. And for the most part, I think that works, because Jericho is a little bigger now. He's older, and he's not 25 anymore, so he would have that extra like bulk to him.
Yeah, no, that was one thing I noticed of it too, was I love, even though I'm selling them right now, I did love how they scaled up his proportions and stuff like that, because he's got a bit of a gut on him now, and he's not as defined as he used to be. So, and for a fact, if Mattel made that Jericho today, all they would do is just put longer hair on him and no tattoos.
Probably still no tattoos, yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be exactly the same figure that it's been the whole time. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't make an Attitude Era Jericho have it be exactly the same proportion as, like, today Jericho. It just won't. Like, it doesn't make sense anymore.
Right. Like, I think the most egregious example of that was they had two defining moments Ric Flair figures. Like, the first one was, like, his early WWF appearance, WCW style. So he had, like, the more sculpted body, even though, even back then, Ric Flair wasn't like that, but we don't have to really get into that. But then they had his WrestleMania 24 retirement match figure with Shawn Michaels, and he's on the exact same fucking body type.
Yeah.
I was like, are you
never
kidding
got older,
me?
Never gained weight.
Yeah.
At least like Jax, when they made that figure, like the older Ric Flair figures, when he would later in his career, they gave him like a heavier torso, because they're like, this makes more sense.
Yeah.
Jax was all over the place pretty much everywhere, but they did that. So I'm like, I'll give him credit for that. And, like, they would do it with other wrestlers, too. So, like, all the Shawn Michaels figures they had, depending on the era, he was a little bit more shredded. He was a little bit, leaner in some respects. Like, they, for some reason, when they wanted to pay attention, they usually made a pretty good decision.
Yeah.
But then they'd do stuff like they'd give A-Train the Brock Lesnar torso for no reason. Like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, and then just a big slob of black paint on his chest. Oh, that's his chest hair.
Yep, there you go.
Jesus. So in the other world of wrestling figures, what do you think of those Boss Fight Studios figures?
They look good. I never got them myself. Like, I never really got to mess with them. But from what I'm seeing, I like the look of them.
Yeah.
I believe, aren't they the same wrestlers as like AEW has also made figures of?
Yeah. The first two they got coming out is Pentagon and Rey Fenix.
Yeah. So I don't.
But they're going to have,
I like the look of them.
Yeah, they're going to have a larger variety of like lucha characters, like Vampiro, Ultimo Dragon, Taya Valkyrie's got a figure coming, Juventude's got a figure coming, Conan's got a figure coming.
Nice.
I think Conan's got 2 figures. I think he's going to have his more traditional lucha figure, and then he's also going to have like a later like LAX NWO style figure,
like a more recent.
Yeah, cool. Baggy pants, flannel, that sort of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's awesome. I do have 2 of those on pre-order. No idea when they're coming, so I am excited for that. I think that might be a thing that get me back into making some videos. Same thing when the Legend Series Undertaker arrives.
That's a cool figure.
The one that you sent me. It's like, I've seen some other pictures, and I'm just like, God, what is it about the Undertaker that it just like compels me to like make a damn video with his figures?
It's the call of the darkness.
I guess so.
The creatures of the night. But no, I think I said to you, like, I didn't really check that figure out at all until I was like about to mail it, and that's when I was like in the car opening it up and getting it packed, and I'm like, yeah, all right, like this looks great. Like, I'm like, wow, where was this head sculpt when I was doing Rite of Passage? Like, I want this.
I know, right?
That's like the perfect that era '96 probably Undertaker like the paintwork is sharp, like the likeness is there, the hair with like hanging in his face. It's not as like ugly as like when they tried to do it with like Brett or somebody. Like it's they did a better job with it, I think.
That's good.
So yeah, I mean, you'll dig it. It's a good figure.
And we got, from what I've seen on Instagram, I think some things leaked on some upcoming Ultimate Edition figures, but there's going to be an Ultimate Edition of Kane and the Undertaker. And from the reports of it, it's going to be like 98 Kane and Undertaker. It's just like, oh man, I'm salivating. I cannot wait.
I mean, I'm wondering what you could do to Kane to make him Ultimate, apart from just maybe swapping out the mask or something. Like, I don't know. Like, how do you really do that? But like, if they go that route, I'd like to see him a little bit bulkier, because I like the Elite Kane, but he's a little lean, I think. But it's a great figure. It's just, that's my only real kind of gripe with it.
Mm-hmm.
But that Undertaker, like, if it is like 97, 98 Undertaker, I'm gonna be so happy, because like, that's what I've wanted for the longest time, for like 10 years. Mattel's had the license.
I know, we've wanted that figure for almost 11 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for the Ultimate Edition Kane, you got to bulk him out. You got to throw in voice box, sledgehammer, probably the WWF title or the WWE title or whatever, because he came with that at one point. But like, he needs, if they're gonna do it, he needs a brand new mask sculpt, because I've seen guys like BEW and a couple of other customizers on Instagram do like a near perfect 1-to-1 recreation of Kane's head that just dwarfs Mattel, or Jax for that matter. And Jax has made some great Kane masks and stuff like that. But it's just like, dudes, if a customizer who's just sculpting with clay could get this 1-to-1, and you've got this fucking face scanning technology, and you have the actual goddamn mask on hand, you could get this a little bit closer. Come on.
Right.
So yeah, he needs he needs a new head. He needs a new head for sure.
That's the one thing I did like about the Jax, like the deluxe classic Kane, was like, he was bulkier in size just because that's what the deluxe figures all were. But when you put him with the regular classic figures, like, he just was a monster, and that was awesome to me.
Yeah.
And then like, I don't know why they went the route of like the mask being removable with the wig and stuff too, because like in that era he just was never without any of it.
Yeah.
But to its credit, it looked pretty good when it was on. It wasn't like too comically oversized or anything like that. And I was like, okay, pretty good. But yeah, like you're saying, like Mattel, they got to do something with that mask. Like the one that I got recently was like the Undertaker and the Kane disguise.
Yeah, same.
And like at that point, they didn't even bother like finishing the paint on the Kane head. Like there's like a big red plastic beard underneath. Like you guys, come on. Like, I get that most people are getting this for the Undertaker.
Still, I mean, if you're going to include it, finish it. Mm-hmm. And like, his eye makeup was red.
Yeah,
his eye makeup was never red until like 2012 when he came back as the Demon Kane or whatever.
With like welder mask over other mask, like.
Yeah, and like even the body on that one was much more bulkier compared to that like Elite Series 12, and just the same one that they've kept re-releasing
with the Target Kane. It's like, I got the first release of that, and I remember looking at the one in Target some years later after it came out, and I was like, it wasn't different enough for me to like buy it again. So like, I was like, all right, it's pretty much the same figure. So
yeah.
Like,
I think the mask might have had just like a little bit of a different design to it, which is like, okay, you can make, for the Ultimate, you can make a brand new mold for the mask, make it look better, and you can include like one or two different versions with like different slashes or flame effects or whatever it's called.
Yeah. I almost wonder, like, would they, I don't think they would go this route, but like, would they do the variant of his gear where it has like kind of the mesh in the flames?
Yeah,
like,
I would like that too.
That's
we
like
haven't seen that one either.
Yeah, I think the last time they made a figure of that was like Titantron Live, like maybe. I don't remember if Jax did a version of that or not with like the classics, but yeah, like it was a look for Kane for a while. It's in all those video games at the time, so like
yeah, no, if they tried to do that, I think they would actually have to mold on that mesh material and then paint over skin tone, because like they've tried to do mesh on Kane before with like that like the last two figures he's gotten from his like 2002 era. Like they just released that Decade of Domination that was basically a re-release of the Ringside Collectibles version.
Like the hardcore.
Yeah.
Kind
and,
of, yeah.
Oh, not the hardcore Kane, like the first mask Kane that had the removable mask.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they re-released that, and they both of those did the same kind of see-through mesh thing, and it just, it's just a lighter shade of gray or black or something. It's like, nah, if you're gonna do an Ultimate Edition, mold on that and then paint over it.
It would be like the if you remember the Hardy Boys from like the R3 days, where they had like the mesh shirts that were actually sculpted, like that really worked. I think. It
those look pretty good.
And like if they could do that with the Kane gear, I guess I don't know. I'm just like thinking of like something different, different enough from the Elite that they could warrant just being here's an Ultimate Edition. Like at least with the other guys so far, like apart from The Rock, who basically just always looks pretty consistent.
Yeah.
They were able to get different gear for the different guys. So like Brett's got his splatter top and Sean's got the Montreal gear and Triple H is in the Attitude Era gear that everybody's wanted for a long time and like just it's cool.
Yeah, what is your feeling on the Ultimate Edition? I mean,
I really like it. Like the across the board, like all the figures that I have been good. At least, even at their worst, they're still like, okay, I like it. As far as like animating and stuff with them, like I've been doing some stuff with The Rock and I really like it. And, I'm looking forward to Austin when he comes out. I got him on pre-order. And again, you could look at it and just be like, well, it's just Stone Cold. He's just going to move better. But that's kind of the point of like the whole reason why I'm buying these figures. Like the more movement I can get out of them, the better it's going to be for me. But like I don't know. Like I've had fun like just customizing them too. Like so I took Brett's head and put it on like the Defining Moments black gear, and I just think it looks better than the head that was originally on there. And just like The Rock is great. Everybody I want is like represented well in the line. So I'm,
Yeah, not only that, they're improving them. I mean, the newest wave that's going to come out, they're all going to have butterfly joints in the chest. So you're going to have an added range of motion. I'm like, damn, okay. You're at least recognizing that there's room for improvement and that people want to support this line. So it's like, okay, that's nice. You're going to actually add stuff to it. Because I think, I really haven't opened up any of my Ultimate figures. I still have them in their boxes except for like Becky and Charlotte. I got them loose, so I'd messed around with them a little bit. And I love the improvements to their figures. But like I got The Rock from you and he was loose. And yeah, I'm super impressed with it. But like the Hollywood Hogan, he was the first one to include the butterfly joints so he could, do the deeper Hulk Hogan poses and stuff like that. And it's like, that's just awesome because now you've got the butterfly joints, you've got the double articulation in the elbows. There's like no excuse to not get the perfect posability out of these figures now.
Sorely missing, for a long time was like the double jointed elbows. Like I'm glad that going forward, I think some of the elites are even going to start getting it too, which is great. I'm like, this is what we've wanted for a long time.
Yeah, like
the Hogan butterfly joints is a cool introduction to the line too, especially now seeing how deep they're going to go. Like the Austin like pictures where they show like the range that you can get out of them. I'm like, that's great. Like more of that, please. It just makes me wonder now. Like, it's probably going to be like certain characters that don't get it, just down to like. I imagine the guys who like arms you're going to be able to swap on and off probably won't have it. Just down to like, so The Fiend or Bret Hart with like the jacket or something, like you probably won't get those. Well, you don't because they don't have it. But like going forward, they probably still won't, I would imagine.
Yeah, that would make sense. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, now I want you guys to push more of the cloth material if it's possible. Because like if that Undertaker doesn't have it, I'm going to be somewhat disappointed.
Yeah, I would think. I mean, like, the Warrior had the cloth coat. Like, Brett didn't bother me because you could get the posable arms, which was, like, the biggest reason why I don't like the plastic clothes in the first place is because you can't move the figure when they got them on.
Yeah.
But they worked around it with the Fiend and with, like, the jacket arms and stuff. But, yeah, like, if you're going to do that Undertaker, you got to give him his gear. Like, Jax did it. Like, Mattel all these years later could definitely, I think, do a great job with it if they could be bothered.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's going to be insane replicating Undertaker's, giant gothic trench coat in that scale without it being completely molded out of some type of rubber. But it's like there was a cape attachment to it as well. So if they're going full WrestleMania 14, you could do kind of a combination of it. And there's no arms that need to pop out of that thing. So hopefully he gets the butterfly joints.
I mean, when they did the Ministry figure, they combined like the soft goods with like the chest harness thing and the shoulder pads, and that worked, I think. So like if they were to do like even a combination like where you could still move the figure around but still get the detail, like I'm all 100% in on that.
Yeah. So what's your opinion on the Super 7 figures? Because we've got some New Japan figures, and we're also they're also making some figures of the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast guys, Matt Cardona and Brian Myers. Like, theirs look pretty cool because they're also coming with fucking action figures of themselves.
Yeah.
That's so meta, but I love it.
Very self-indulgent. I love it. Like, because, again, those are the action figure wrestlers, not the other way around. But, like, I mean, I like what I've seen. Like, I've only seen, I think, like, Matt Goldberg has some pictures of, like, his Super 7 stuff, and I've seen some other photographers and stuff taking pictures. But, so Series 1, I've got Okada and Tanahashi, I believe, ordered from Big Bad. And then I got all of Series 2 pre-ordered, but who knows when any of these are coming because Super 7 is Super 7. But from what I see, I like them. I know people got some issues with, like, again, the posability isn't where it maybe should be for a lot of people, but I don't want to, like, just make excuses for Super 7, but that's just always how Super 7 figures are. So, like, if you know what those figures are, then you're not going to be like let down by it because you already know what to expect, I guess. But
they seem to value more presentation than articulation.
Yeah, and I kind of got that from their Ninja Turtles too, because like that was, I think, the first Super 7 figures I was messing with were those two Ninja Turtles that I have, and they're, for what they are and for what they're trying to be, they're perfect. They're spot on replicas of the old figures, just done in a way that makes them like what a modern collector would want. And I think that's probably the direction they're going to go with these wrestlers too. It's going to be like different for people, and if people just want elite versions of them, that's not what you're going to get, unfortunately. But I know it's like people are talking about like, oh, this articulation is missing, and it's like, well, it's not though, because it's just engineered differently. Like they don't have a thigh cut across the thigh, but it's almost like a NECA joint where like the whole leg will twist if you just like twist it at the hip, I guess. And
realistically, people don't have thigh swivels. So you can make that argument as well.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, I do like them. I understand they're more expensive, but at the same time, you're getting more with them. So what normally you might get out of two Mattel figures, you're going to get it all with one Super 7 figure. So, like, okay, it's justifiable in my head.
Got it.
Did you order any of them, or are you, like, pass on?
No, I'm on the fence. Like, once I saw how those New Japan figures looked, I was like, I mean, especially with everything going on in the personal life right now, it's like I pretty much cut figures out completely. Like, I've got a couple coming from you, I mean, like I said, I've got that one Undertaker figure coming from you, and then, like, every once in a while, I'll see an Ultimate Edition or something like the Boss Fight Studios where it's like, okay, damn it, I know I'm going to kick myself in the ass, I got to get it. Same thing with, like, the Toka and Razor set. It was just like, if I don't take this offer from you now, I'm never going to get them. So, got to do it. So, but yeah, with like the wedding coming up and everything with the car, it's like I need to be a better adult.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I can do this for a while. So I figured just take the rest of the year off from everything else and just refocus.
Just pick and choose, yeah. Like I'm looking at I had Big Bad open the other day, and I'm like, man, I got like probably like 8 or 9 freaking pre-orders for the next like 6-7 months, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, how much of this stuff do I want? And then it's like, I kind of do want all of it though. Like, sometimes I can comb through and be like, I don't really want that. I don't need this. Like, there's been a bunch of Mezco stuff that I've had on pre-order, and then just was like, but I'm never gonna do anything with this, so I don't need it. And like, just different figures like that where I can just kind of like, I don't know, just justify removing it from the pre-order list.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad because like I was so big on Mezco for that first couple of years, and then I just dropped off from it. I was like, man, this has become too much of a racket. where it's like, you got to get on the website at this time. You got to pre-order. You got to do this. It's like, can I just go on Amazon or just go on your website and just buy something right then and there? No, there's bots that are going to steal everything. It's like the same thing with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. It's like, you can't get any of this shit right now. It's like people finally figured out that this is like highly valuable to a certain group of people, and we're just going to fuck them as hard as we can now.
Yeah, basically.
And it's like, all right, I'm out.
Mezco is like, I don't know, like they've started paying a lot more attention to their like in-house like characters and stuff too, which like I get it, it's fine because they don't have to probably pay licensing fees on it, and they don't have to like, there's certain cost cutting that they can do, and it's like almost developed into like its own culture in a way, I guess. Like, I don't know, I can picture that brand of Mezco figures and those like characters almost being like in line with like skater culture or like clothing fashion kind of culture, because it's got that kind of like aesthetic where you can see, you know,
the weird little,
it wouldn't be totally out of place
that they've got.
It wouldn't be out of place to see that figure with like a Supreme shirt and a skateboard or something. Like,
yeah, totally,
that kind of screams that to me. But yeah, that's another thing I was thinking about with these Mezcos. I'm like, I got some of those Batman figures and like one or two of them down here, and I'm like, they're just there. Like, I don't do anything with them. And if I was going to sell them, now would be the time, because people like, you know, secondary market Mezco prices go for pretty decent money.
Yeah.
But then I'm just like, but I never will though, because I want those Batman figures. So,
shit.
Damn it. Like,
I know. I think the one I'm kicking myself over is the Keaton Batman, but dealing with the pre-order shit, I was just like, you know, I gotta just let it go.
I got in on that pre-order, and that was like 14 months ago or something, and I have heard nothing about it. So like, I have no idea what's going on with that figure. It supposedly was going to be out around now, and I just don't have it. So
yeah, I mean, obviously we could chalk that up to the pandemic, but then like, I don't know, like, do they take just a deposit, or do you have to pay the full thing?
That one I think I paid all up front because it was like a Mezco shop or I don't know. Yeah, I just know that when I ordered it, I was like, okay, fine, just pay it all right now and be done with it. But I know sometimes you just have to do like a deposit.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes dropping that much money and then having to sit on something is just like not something I want to do anymore.
Nah, I get it. Especially, like when you're not going to get the figure for over a year. I'm like,
yeah,
I could easily spend this on something better. But the upside to it, I guess, is when the figure shows up and I'm like, oh, I've had $0 leave my bank account in the past couple weeks for this. So that's nice. All
right, sir. Well, I think we've gone over an hour and a half. Nice. So I think we're going to maybe wrap this up here. What you got coming up? What's coming down the pipeline?
Well, doing a little bit more stop motion stuff here and there. Just my Instagram, @Captain McKay. I've done over the past couple of weeks. There was some Ninja Turtles Rebel Tech animation I put up. I'd like to do some more similar, smaller projects just to, throw 10, 15, 20 seconds on Instagram here and there. And eventually do something with it on YouTube. I don't know what exactly, but as for my YouTube, I'm doing still sporadic videos here and there. Just Between the Frames went up last week, and prior to that was some animation. And, I keep things pretty consistent in terms of not doing anything on a schedule. So, yeah.
Well, you're doing a hindsight better than I am, sir, so I'm proud to see you still uploading and stuff. That's been great. It's like the little clips of like Super Tiger Pro, and I still need to go back and watch every ending to the Mortal Kombat, because every time I see like a new one pop up that I haven't seen, I'm just like, damn. But still, it's awesome to see.
Yeah, well, thank you. That project was, I'm glad that that's behind me. I had a lot of fun with it, and it was really, it was a challenge to get it all together the way I wanted it, but, it's cool. I like it.
Yeah, God, what was that Bandersnatch episode of Black Mirror? That was like your own version of that you had to put together. That was insane.
Yeah, and I likely went nearly as insane as the guy in the episode. If I'd continued any further, it might have been pretty bad for me. But I made it out alive, and the project is up there for anybody who wants to check it out. It's cool.
Yeah, you weren't being haunted by a vision of like Goro or Scorpion in your sleep, so that's kind of good news.
Luckily, yeah, they let me alone.
All right, sir. Well, I guess we'll end this right now for the people listening. So, once more, this was Captain McKay Random.
It's been fun.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again. Hopefully, not in another 2 years.
Yeah, sure, right.
But he will be coming up to or he will be coming over to the Pacific Northwest for mine and my fiance's wedding this summer. So Captain McKay will get to see what life is over here in good old Idaho, Washington area. Maybe we'll do some figure hunting videos or something.
Yeah, I've never been out to that specific area before. Been to Oregon once, and so I it's not exactly.
It's funny how people pronounce that, because it's like you said Oregon, and then everyone else over here calls it Oregon.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what's right and what's not. I'm probably wrong because I'm assuming the people that live there probably know how to say it.
No, it's just hilarious because everyone always mispronounces Spokane. Everyone's like, oh, is it Spokane? No, Can. It's like, well, why is it spelled like Kane the wrestler? It's like, because this place is stupid. I can't tell you anything more than that.
We've been saying his name wrong. His name has actually been Can since 97.
Can told me, Undertaker.
That's gotta be Can.
All right, sir. Well, we'll hopefully see you down the road.
Yes, sir.